We're rounding up our usual suspects already. I didn't even start drinking yet.
Jesus Christ.
It's okay. This means there's more wine. Once you say Jesus Christ, it's just a lot of wine.
There we go, rum. Okay, here we go. We're rounding up our usual suspects for our 100th episode. Grab a table at Rick's Cafe American and ask Sam to play it again as we discuss Casablanca. Stay with us.
Get ready for the 3324 podcast, where lifelong friends Dean Legiro and Eric Kuber share their love of all things music and movies. Dean has directed short films and is a music trivia buff, and Eric, trained in audio engineering, brings his extensive knowledge of music and film to the conversation as they discuss, debate, and celebrate their favorite albums, films, and much more.
Welcome, friends, to the 3324 podcast. Eric, this is a very special and momentous occasion. Do you know why?
It's our 100th episode.
It's our 100th episode.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I can't believe it. Usually, when we first got into this and I was doing all my research, the statistic is most people that start podcasts don't get past the 7th episode. And I thought, that's not really a lot. Like 7 isn't a lot to do. I'm like, we could do 7 and then quit after 8, and at least we wouldn't be the statistic. We would just kind of get over this. We passed it.
Well, I think very early on we made the decision if we just keep it rolling, because it's just a lot of fun just to get to see my pal every week, and we can talk about movies and music and what's not to love about it.
And it's been a learning experience. It's been a growing experience. I listened back to some of our earlier episodes, and they're great. But I can definitely feel how we have changed and grown, and I couldn't be happier to have you as my partner in crime for this, and the guy that knows how I think and kind of gets most of the corny jokes, so they kind of 50% go over, 25% land, and 45% crash and burn.
Who's tolerated?
That's exactly right. And to our credit, I don't like to really pound the drum a little bit, but we have never missed a week of content. Some weeks we've had two weeks at 2 different episodes with quick hits or extra episodes. So we have the one thing I can say I'm proud of is providing content every week for everybody. Even if you didn't care for the movie or the music that we did, we certainly provided that each week, and we're going to continue to do that. If you're in for another 100,
I'd say so.
Okay.
Why not? Let's do 1,000. Let's keep it going.
Wow. Jeez. All right.
I just want to give you credit too for doing all the techie stuff. You obviously have the voice for it, the head for it. I like to just show up. I just like to show up and talk and give my weird thoughts, but you did a great job building this podcast into what it is.
Thank you.
And you become quite the producer.
Roll is like, I'm going to get sick in a minute.
I don't know what's going on. I feel the sexual tension. It's really intense.
Get a room. Get a room.
I'm just saying. Guys are going to have little cappuccinos and maybe share a pastry.
Hey, that's
we have our own little table and
hey, one spoon, one fork, baby. Let's do it.
Yeah,
that's how it starts. That's how it starts
behind the curtain.
That's how it ends. That's the morning breakfast.
I thought no better way to celebrate our 100th episode is to grab as many of our previous guests as possible. Why not round up the usual suspects for Casablanca? It only made sense to do so. So we're gonna introduce each one of our guests by the episode that they appeared in first, by their first appearance, in order. So our very first on this panel, we are missing 2. We're missing 3 actually, technically guests that have been with us, but this person was early on, before our 20th episode. We grabbed Mr. Sean Grady for episode 18.
Yeah,
which was Glengarry Glen Ross.
That's right.
And so welcome aboard, Sean. Thank you for all of your support, from being there from the jump, putting the magnets on your car, throwing magnets at passing cars to see if they stick.
Right. Rocking the swag in the pictures. Yeah.
All of that.
Yep.
Christy? Are you giving you
Thanks for
the applause. There you go.
The raised hand only have one hand.
Even raised my hand.
And
That's
so
like a spring-loaded thing going on right there.
It goes boing. So Sean was with us for episode 18. It would only take us 10 more episodes to get another guest. Mr. Nick Leshy would join us for episode 28, which was Batman Begins.
Yeah.
So welcome aboard, Nick. Again, thank you so much for your support and everything you've done and all the contributions you make. You're the voice of reason. I feel you're the voice of reason in this group.
Isn't he though? Yeah, he's so chill, so calm.
He is. He's very chill.
Even when he hates the movie, he makes his point very eloquently.
Yeah. He suffers the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune.
There you go.
And so that was episode 28. And then it would only take us another 3 episodes to have another guest, Kelly Cooper, making her second appearance with us. She was with us and provided her perspective for the Jewel episode, Pieces of You. So welcome back, Kelly. We've been trying to get her back for Shawshank, but it's on the horizon, and we're going to get her back for that. So thank you, Kelly, for everything you've done. And Kelly helps us out on our trivia nights as well. She's the score tabulator. She keeps me in line as well there. So thank you so much, Kelly, for everything you've done. Next up, it would be another 13 episodes before we unleash the Kraken. And that would be Christy Cuomo would make her debut on
the Kraken.
The Kraken for our episode about the top 5 alternative hits of the 90s, which is right now our most downloaded episode of all time, bar none. There are no episodes that are closest to that. I don't know what it is. I must have been in really good voice for that episode.
Very. Or could have been.
But yeah, that is our most downloaded episode. So Christy, thank you for all your support, and thank you for joining us on a multitude of other episodes as well.
You're most welcome.
Last but certainly not least, and he helped us out with one of our favorite films. His debut was one of our favorite films. Was Mr. Roland Arucci joined us for episode 73, which was a Star Trek Wrath of Khan. And we haven't had him back enough. And I want, when I'm making my list, I'm like, I gotta see if Roland is we're still on speaking terms.
A shirtless Latin man on any movie, I'm ready to come back. I mean,
a shirtless Latin man. I think we can do that. Besides Ricardo Montalban,
you know what? They're never Ricardo. But
I can see if Ricky Martin's done any films.
Yes,
I could always check that out. So, Roland, thank you as well for all of your contributions. He helped us out on one of our favorite movies as well, Highlander.
That's right.
He was there for,
and he wasn't. He said he watched it and wasn't much of a fan. Didn't hold up for him, but
we swayed him.
By the end of it, I think he came around. Yeah. See.
Yeah.
But
we just kept pushing the Kool-Aid in front of him. Eventually, he drank it. Unlike Nick during our Heat episode, Nick would not take any of the Kool-Aid.
No, he stuck to his guns, and he
took a lot of shots to the body, though, and he still came back. So we
not
appreciate it. So thank you, all of our guests. We could have not have done this podcast without you. The enhancements and the fun, the perspective, the points of view, the information, the trivia that you all bring. Makes these episodes even more extra special. So I figured let's dump as many people as we can into Casablanca. So are you guys ready? What do you think?
We're ready.
We're ready.
Ready.
Let's do it. All right. So of course, as we always do from our first episode to our 100th episode, we have never not done stats. So we're going to roll out some stats because we like to give you some factual information, and then the bullshit and the opinions and the lies and the tales, they come later. But at least we could say we're going to start off with some factual information. So let's do that first. This was released on November 26, 1942. That is going to be 80 years. God. Would not. Can't believe it. Directed by the great Michael Curtiz. This guy was a directing factory, directing up to 6 films in some years, like 1939 or 1940. This was back during the studio system of Warner Brothers, where these guys just crank these things out, but that should not diminish his skill. Okay, the screenplays by Julius Epstein, Philip Epstein, and Howard Koch. Okay, it was based on an unproduced play called Everybody Comes to Rick's, and the rights at the time were purchased for $20,000, which was the most paid for an unproduced play at the time. The budget for this This extravaganza was 878,000 to 1 million. There's a range in there. And the box office is a little sketchy too. His box office was anywhere from $3.7 to $6.9 million. Finally, here's where the rubber hits the road. 3 Oscars. And these are the 3 you want to win. Best Picture, Best Director, Best Screenplay.
Yeah.
I think if you want to take home, I think if you're a producer or, I mean, I'm sure you want to take anything home, but winning Best Picture, Best Director, Best Screenplay, for me, that kind of encompasses, I think, all of the, Sean, let me start with you. I think that encompasses like all the acting awards too, right? I mean, it's kind of, the acting awards are individual achievement, but, Best Picture kind of really covers that, and Best Director, Best Screenplay. Those are like the 3 big elements that you need.
It's a nice umbrella.
Right? For them to bring their A game for the actors too.
I think it's a nice umbrella, and the other ones,
Yeah, I think if I was a studio or a producer, if I had to pick 3, I'd pick those 3. Mm-hmm. I dare say, Nick, I've said it. I think this is one of the best screenplays ever written.
I mean, you can think of superlatives for every facet of this movie. And one of my friends, Matt McMillan on Facebook, he kind of was writing about one of his movies. He wrote something like, Casablanca may be the perfect example of perfection. And then he lists all the things he thought were perfect: story, acting, screenplay, cast, score, ending, and he said no small feat when you consider that the world was literally falling apart when it was made. Mm-hmm. And I would think the one thing he left out was cinematography. The lighting in this movie, I think, is probably the best in any movie from beginning of cinema history to the end. And the guy who did it, I wrote it down because I forget names, Arthur Edison. He's the guy that did the cinematography for Frankenstein, mm-hmm. Maltese Falcon. So, I mean, just beautiful visual, the lighting and the shadows, the black and white just really pops, the contrast. Visually, I think it's probably the best looking movie ever. And that's a big statement, right?
Yeah, and you make a really good point. And I want to kick it over to Roland. You said this movie was made when the world was falling apart. And one of the things about this film, Roland, is the nature of how it handles politics and basically a lot of non-committal attitudes, right? I mean, the Nazis are the bad guys in this, right? And they are. And when this was made, actually, it was still very, very topical, right? Obviously. Yeah. But the 2 main characters, Rick, Humphrey Bogart's Rick and Claude Rains' Louis, are very kind of they try and skirt that line of being very non-committal and particularly like with purpose, whatever. If the Nazis win, okay, it was an interesting take back then, especially during wartime when everything was so patriotic of America. Did that strike you in any way?
Yeah, it sort of did, and the way it's so layered. That's when you look back at these films, you forget how you watch it when you were a kid and sort of like just in the background, and you're really focused when you get older. You're listening to it, and you're thinking about the moments. An interesting note: most of the people, the Germans in there, were actually escaped Jews from Nazi Germany. Mm-hmm. The people who played the German roles. So there's actually really impactful for them. There are a lot of moments where they would break down during the film, especially Conrad Veidt, who played Major Strasser. And he really, I mean, he chewed up his scenes. I love the way he did his scenes. It was so layered with again, looking back, they're talking about adultery. They're talking about World War. They're talking about indifference. They're talking about a commitment to somebody. They're talking about a woman who would actually throw her body at a corrupt, official to get her husband out of the country. There's so many things happening in this that you wouldn't think, the golden era, they didn't really talk about that. They were kind of prudish. This is a very deep layered film. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very deep. A lot of broken characters who start off, I would say, a little foggy for us. They know what they are, but for us, and by the end, you really get an idea of who they are. Like, who Rick is by the end. Even though he fights his nature. You know who Louis is by the end, even though they fight everybody. They are by the end, even though they sort of like try and be something else. They all do at some point, but they can't get away from their nature, and that applies too to the what was happening during that time of being in World War II and who's really fighting against their nature, and you can't fight nature, and these people are all heroes in this story. Yeah,
that's a great point that Roland makes, Kelly. That a lot of almost all the characters to a point, except for one, are of dual nature. They kind of, they're conflicted with, they know what the right thing is, but they don't want to do it or they can't do it. And Victor Laszlo is the only character that is straight down the line, like the pure good. Did you have a problem with that, Kelly? Did that aspect like bother you? Like all these characters seem to just kind of float in between wanting to do good things or saying they don't want to, but then doing them.
Yeah, no, I think that's natural. That's human nature. But I also think that it's so stark contrast between Rick and Laszlo and this, female in the middle and her perspective on both, it's just a very interesting concept of having this, pure good in this, this other person, and that you can have these, these feelings for both sides of the spectrum kind of.
Yeah, Christy, it's almost like that, with Elsa, who's played by the fantastic Ingrid Bergman. Oh my God, she's so great in this film. She's drawn to one person almost because of a hero worship, right? That's her relationship with Victor Laszlo. Is she never really says she loves him, even when he said there's scenes where he's like, oh, I love you. And he's like, oh, honey, we have to get going or we don't have time. She'll never implicitly say that, but she's very quick to say how much she loves Rick. And can she balance these, is it possible to balance these two? Because in the end, she does actually choose.
Yeah. I mean, kind of like what Kelly was saying is, I mean, that's an age old tale of being torn between the good and the bad and what you're inherently, attracted to, which is she's attracted to Rick. I mean, she loves Rick. I think she loves the concept of Victor Laszlo, again, because he's a do-gooder and what he's going to do for the world, but her heart is with Rick. And, it's interesting when you were saying before that Victor's the only good character, honest character in this film. It's almost like Edie in Heat, right? There's only one character in the movie that is genuine by any stretch of imagination. I think Roland wanted to say something.
Yeah, go ahead, Roland.
Yeah, just to tag on top of that, Laszlo. I'm using the raise your hand
Yep.
Laszlo, they Strasser says he could be a hero, and that's the concern of Laszlo's character, and they show that, and very much to your point, Christy, where she sees him as part of this movement, a greater thing. So he's above. He is godlike. He's a level above. And she's sort of like, I wouldn't say infatuated, but she wants to support and be part of that greater good, and definitely Rick is her desire.
But sometimes you can admire that, but can you love it? Yeah. Can you have can you have that? She can't have that passion for Victor the way she does for Rick. I mean, because passion is passion, and either you have it or you don't. I agree with you. That.
Yeah, definitely. Even the way they lit it was different. When she was with Rick, the angles are different. There's more of that shadow and everything's very prominent. When they were Laszlo, it took a lot of two shots. So they're a couple. That's what it is. They're a couple. And I mean, there is no sexual tension there.
No.
Well, and that's exactly what I was going to point out is like the camera angles. And there's this one scene that really struck me where when he's, starting the singing in the bar and, everyone's getting up and everything. If you look at how she's shot in that, her eyes are just welled up and you can just tell this immense admiration for this person. But again, that's admiration. And that is this bigger than her situation. And when she's with Rick, it's more a relationship that isn't just about, this cause. It's an escape, more like.
It's raw. Her relationship with Rick is more raw.
Yeah, good point. Eric, this is the reteaming of three of our favorites from the Maltese Falcon, right? Oh, yeah. We've got Bogart back. We've got Peter Lorre as Ugarte, and we've got the great Sidney Greenstreet, who only made, I think he made 6 or 9 films and is very short. He was a stage actor, but not a very long film. As Ferrari. It's just, and I think they did Passage to Marseille together, right? The three of them?
Yeah, that was right after.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So, I mean, I think seeing that from the beginning kind of gives you, if you're a Maltese Falcon fan, kind of watching Casablanca and seeing them three together kind of gives you that comfort level because they were just so electric in Maltese Falcon.
But we always often would talk about this, right? I mean, what's the better film? Like, is it Maltese Falcon or Casablanca? So we were always, I guess it all depends on what mood you're in.
Mm.
But I don't know. It's hard. Watching this again, I was like, man, this is a perfect movie. But then, so is Maltese Falcon. So I can't decide, because they're just so great.
Yeah, Nick, they both have the benefit of rapid fire screenplays. I think that's what makes Maltese Falcon and Casablanca kind of similar. The pacing of it, the story moves, you get information that you need. But for me, this screenplay, there's just something about the cynicism, the wit, the stakes, the intrigue. What is that something you feel when
Sure.
when you're watching
I
this?
think, I had forgotten what awards it had won. So the fact that the screenplay was one of them makes perfect sense, because the story, like Roland said, the layers are there. And then like Christy and Kelly were talking about the just the dynamic of the triangle, right? Because remember the era that this was made, where apparently a married woman could not leave her husband in a story, that they would not have allowed it. So audiences at the time knew that she was never going to leave Laszlo. So you see in the storytelling how they're like talking about, she didn't know he was alive when they were in Paris, but watching the movie, she's in love with Rick, right?
Yeah.
So just right up until that ending, you're like, she's not going to go on the plane. She's going to, so the storytelling is just brilliant. I'd like to read the play because I'd never seen it or read it. And I know it's very different and they changed it. So maybe Christy, maybe you know more about that. So.
Oh, no, I'm not. I don't know much about the play. I agree with you about reading it. But when you were just talking about how she loved Rick more, and then having been married to Laszlo, it reminded me of Castaway, of Helen Hunt having to make that decision because she loves Tom Hanks more, right? That's probably where her heart was, but she's going to stay with the dentist, right? Because she had to make that choice. And so there's probably some inspiration came, but I don't know. You were talking about it, just literally, I just sort of cast away. And just because Dean said at the beginning, this is by far one of my favorite screenplays. This screenplay is near perfect to me. It is absolutely beyond its time. Like even like what Roland was saying before, is you have all these different things they're juggling. I think Warner was one of the first ones to even bring up showing being anti-Nazi. This is 1942. This woman's basically having an affair. I mean, she thought her husband was dead, but she slept with another man while married. Back then you couldn't do that. I mean, it's just so much is going on in here, but the way that they put it all together. And the comedy routine between Claude Rains and Bogart, just that dynamic. Every scene with the two of them is my favorite scene.
Yeah, Sean, I firmly believe that this movie could not have been made without Claude Rains in that supporting role.
Yeah,
I think that he provides he kind of almost said he's not afraid to say what's on his mind, which was back then very open for a character too, especially with the innuendo that they were getting away with. A lot of this, I'm bringing a beautiful blonde tomorrow, Ricky, and I expect her to lose, at the roulette table. Sean, that you hadn't watched this much recently, right?
No.
So
Yeah.
I mean,
he's making innuendos about a gay couple too. Even when the girl brings the boy, with the husband.
Yeah.
He's minded.
Yeah. I was like, that's actually really funny. That's really, really funny.
They slide a lot of stuff in there.
Yeah.
That this guy he's not a very good. I mean, he admits, I'm just a poor, corrupt official.
Yeah.
He calls it like it is, but they don't really gloss over it. Sean, did you find that bracing for the time?
Yeah, I was like, wow, this is this is a little racy. The woman, that poor young woman who I felt for her. She's like, I had to get us, is that wrong? Like looking for Rick's approval, for what she had done, and then I was like, remembering
what she was going to do. She didn't do it.
She was going
right.
If I did it and kept it locked away in my heart. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
22.
And he's like, send her in. He's like, another court request for the visa. Oh, send her in. And he's like, I'm like,
yes.
I'm
He's
like,
just got he's just got a steady thing of women coming in, and that roulette scene is great because of all the side characters, Eric, that fill out this. This is one of those films, much like when we talked about Heat, like all the side characters fill in the world, and in Casablanca. It's even the roulette player in the beginning is like, oh, you know, can I have 20,000? I'm so sorry we lost it. And then Rick comes in and fixes the roulette. And he leaves and he gives him a little, actually he gives but he gives Rick a little wink. I picked it up when watching it. He kind of gave Rick a little wink, like, yeah, I know, like, you know, we got to do this. And then some guy's like, oh, is this place, you know, honest? And Carl's like, honest as the day is long, you know, like you get these little comedic snips of, you know, the thing I loved about this film, Kelly, is that whenever I watch it, I feel like I want to hang out there. I would be useless. It's not like I'd be a high roller, but I just feel like I want to be in there, like the smoky, the drinks are getting poured. People don't finish their drinks because they put it down and they get called away. It just, like, for me, the atmosphere that Michael Curtiz set, you know, it's like a real place, like Sasha the bartender. I love you, you know, like just like all this, like all these characters fill out this world that, you know, so it's not this, we are singularly focused mainly on Rick, but all these other colorful characters help make the whole situation real because they know him.
The smoky anchor. I mean, he's the smokiest person in this. Besides the actual smoking, but he's like this smoldering, you know, character in it that's very dark with a cloud over him, and everybody else is, you know, I mean, you have Ingrid Bergman. She's doing a great job balancing, and she offers herself up, you know, very quickly. Also, hey, maybe we can work something out. They're all trying to play this game, and it's a game of morals that, you know, what are things worth to be alive. And it's really interesting. And you have, you know, Claude Rains is just, he is that comedy relief, but he's the everyman mind. Everybody who's thinking in the back, I don't care what decade you were from, but everybody's like, well, would you? Yeah. Claude Rains is saying what every creepy guy would do. So, and that's great that they have these two battling, you know, egos.
And it's right down the middle.
The story, and then you have these great peripheral characters that bring it out. And even Sam, who's treated respectfully. 1942, where black men weren't allowed to fight with white men in the same battalion. This guy is treated respectfully and paid a wage, a really good living wage, for his talent. And you know, you have immigrants from Paris, from Russia, from all Italy. And another interesting note: all the villains had to be Axis powers. So all the villains had to be Italian or French. We said German. So all the pickpockets Italian. Everybody who's a creep is Italian.
Yeah. Nobody is undervalued in this movie. Everybody has a moment.
They do. Absolutely.
Every character has at least one line where they make their point. And their you know, the relationship, the dire situation of everybody's lost, everybody's like sort of afloat. This place is like an oasis in the middle of this madness.
It paints the portrait. It really does.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's one of those films for me that paints the portrait.
Even the great Sidney Greenstreet as Ferrari, who owns the Blue Parrot, you know, like he knows he can't hold a candle to Rick's. Like there's something about Rick's that people just go to, they're drawn to it. And it's not like Rick is a great host. He's actually the anti-host. He's very cynical. And, you know, there's a scene in the beginning when he's in the gambling room and, you know, people are trying to get in the door and he lets one person in and then the guy from the Deutsche Bank is there, but Ugarte kind of just slides right in. Like he's allowed, like he cuts the line, but they don't let the Deutsche Banker guy in, you know, so he's not known as like a gracious host, you know. What do you think, Nick?
Don't you think the cafe is also a character? I think the introduction to the cafe, the first time you see it, you know, you got the neon light or whatever it is, right? But then they have these like cutaway scenes of all the people there. They're all there for something different, something underhanded. They're having business. They're trying to get those documents. You know, one of the great
17,000 francs in cash.
Yeah. So I think,
and by the way, Dean, I have to interject here for a moment. By the way, it's not Cafe American. It's Cafe American.
American.
Right.
American.
It's even spelled that way on the neon sign. So
I wrote it that way, but I just didn't, you know. I already botched the beginning, so it just fell apart from there. The whole thing just trailed off from there. Sean, yeah, the cafe it's part of the thing. Most of the action, 90% of the movie, maybe even 95% of the movie happens there.
Yeah, no, I think it's a happening place. I agree with you. I totally want to hang out there. I don't know if you mentioned in the beginning and all the little characters. Did you pick up the I think the pharmacist from It's a Wonderful Life, the one that he's
The
right.
sun
He's
guys?
he's I can't remember his name. The one that
The one that
smacks.
He works
Yeah,
for.
what he
And
works
his
for
kid
smacks it.
dies, and then
He's got a little cameo in the beginning of that. And
Mr. Gower. Mr. Gower.
Mr.
Gower. Mr. Gower, that's it. Yeah, he's got a little cameo in there.
I think there's a rumor that Benny Hill had a cameo in it.
I heard that rumor too, but I didn't.
Really?
It was Jack Benny.
Must have been really young.
Benny Hill, Jack Nicholson, Ben Affleck. We could just kind of.
Matt Damon's never there.
It wasn't Matt Damon.
Since Roland brought up Matt Damon, the two people who can make any ex-smoker want to smoke is Humphrey Bogart and Matt Damon. Matt Damon in Good Will Hunting is a phenomenal smoker, and Bogart is a really good smoker. Like
he's a good walker.
He's cool.
He does it. He does it very well.
Very few people know how to walk on screen.
No, yeah, he knows what to do with his hands. He's got
he has a certain persona about him. I don't know what it is.
And drinking, the amount of drinking, like I said, the amount of drinking or the drinks that get poured and then they don't finish. Like Rick gets pulled away. He takes one little slug and then he goes to another table. And
it's all a character. That prop work is a character. It's building that tension of everything's so urgent you can't finish a drink.
So
finishing a drink.
Was Rick's Cafe the inspiration for Cheers?
Maybe.
Could be.
Maybe.
Could be.
Maybe.
There was no Cliff
Raven,
though.
I can see Norm.
Well, it's funny. The bartender Sasha, he wasn't the original choice. The guy who plays Sasha was actually a drinking buddy of Bogart's.
Oh yeah.
And they got along really well. And the first guy really wasn't funny enough, so they kind of put this guy in who was an actor, but he was a drinking pal, and he just stole the show. Yeah. You know, I love you, Yvonne. You know, just like those little aside, and that whole Yvonne character, she kind of looks like
great character.
She kind of looks a little bit like Ingrid Bergman, kind of resembles her, and he's and Rick is just so flippant to her. You know, I never planned that far ahead, and he's he's icy towards everybody, but he seems like he's even more icy towards women. So you see from the beginning that, you know, he's damaged a little Kelly. You kind of get that feeling that he's kind of, he's hard to everybody, but the scene with Yvonne, he's just brutal.
Yeah, I definitely picked up on that.
But that establishes him. I think also the allure of him and Rick's Cafe is that he's ambivalent to everyone, but equally. So he's harsh to everyone the same. And I think that's what that character of that space is why people gravitate towards it. We have
there's a level. I think there's a level of respect going on there.
Yeah,
you know, when people, he's hard and he's got this shell. Yeah. He's wearing this mask. You know, he's
to everybody.
To everybody. So, but they respect that about him. You know, they know what to say to him, what not to say to him, how to interact with him. You know, so he keeps that level. So he needs that. He's got that reputation, and I think that's important to, you know.
Let's not forget he's a heartbroken man.
Yeah, deep down,
that's where it all comes from because the hard shell does break down with her. Like when she sneaks in and she tells him everything, and then she's like, "You have to decide for the both of us." Like you can see where this all comes from. I mean, he's just he's a human being. You put up a a boundary when you get really, really hurt. I mean, that's
to Dean's point, if you notice too, to Dean's point, of all the drinking, that doesn't happen until Ilsa shows up. That's when he starts hitting that's when he starts hitting the bottle, and he's the rest of the movie he's sitting by himself, even when everything you're becoming your best customer. He's sitting by himself drinking. Like he's expecting her to walk in the door again, and so he
Yeah, Sam tries to pull him out. Sam's like, "Come on, come home. Come with me. Let's get out of here."
Yeah, Carl too. They chide him a little bit, so it's a lot of that.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's
that raised the tension.
What do you got, Nick?
That flashback then to Paris is so jarring to me then, because you see Rick happy that
Yeah.
smile looks
Yeah.
real, and what you've seen so far, and it's coming from the, him kind of just having that drunken, thing. It's just like, it's amazing.
That first encounter, he's horrible to her.
Yeah.
He's basically calling her basically a whore. Aren't you the guy? Aren't you the kind that tells? And she's absolutely despicable to her. He's just
let me talk about that flashback a little bit. Kelly, I was thinking about this today, and I never thought about it before. Do you think that the flashback would have been more impactful if it was in color?
No.
Just the flashback, or is that a gimmick?
No.
Would that have been?
Yeah, it would have definitely
shown how different it was and how different he was. It would have been maybe a little heavy-handed. Oh yeah, my life had color. But I was thinking about it. Were you thinking?
No, I think that this entire movie would be lessened by being in color 100%, because, like you were pointing out before, the cinematography, the angles, the lighting, all of that is so much more stark in a black and white film. If it was in color, a lot of that would have disappeared. And
100%.
If you notice, every intimate scene with Rick and Elsa, it's shot like noir style. They are shot in the dark. And when he's, to go back to talking about Laszlo and her, everything is in broad daylight. When she's talking about her husband, it's in broad daylight. But when they're intimate, when they're kissing, when they're dancing, even in the flashback scene, they're shot in the dark. It's very intimate and it's very sort of noirish style, and that was done on purpose. So yeah, they wouldn't have had the same effect if it had been in color, And they did colorize it at one point too. I think
that was I just meant for the flashback part to colorize that to kind of separate it. But it's Sean. It's a good thing I didn't direct that film then, because would have been a bad thing. Sean, one of my favorite scenes also is the Viva la France scene. So when Laszlo's upstairs with Bogart and they're talking, and then all of a sudden the Nazis start singing, whatever their song is. I don't know what it is. Sorry, Nazis. And he kind of rushes downstairs.
You don't have to apologize to Nazis. It's okay.
Yeah, it's the only thing I'm going to apologize to. Knowing the song. But when Laszlo rushes downstairs and kind of Bogart looks behind and he grabs the orchestra and they start, I think that's a turning point, because that's when everybody starts to realize, even Yvonne, because she was at that point hooking up with the Italians or the Nazis and kind of almost to spite Rick. I think it was a turning point for the film, because then that's when Strasser realized, he goes, look, if he can do this in a bar, what else can he do? And that's kind of when the tide really turned towards maybe keep him in Casablanca, Laszlo, and we'll keep him under wraps to, I think we need to get rid of him. What did you,
it's as compelling as any battle scene, like any violent battle scene on the battlefield. It's a battle of wills. It's about, he's stirring everybody up. It's just as stirring and just as dramatic, and it's a hell of a scene. Yeah.
Roland brought this up earlier, but that scene, because you had a lot of refugees playing these extras, was an incredibly emotional scene. The tears were genuine. They were real. Yeah. It was a real.
So when only 3 born Americans.
Yeah, only 3 Americans in the entire film. Sam, Bogart, and then the young girl that comes to him. She was an executive.
Yeah, she was the stepdaughter of Jack Warner, I think, or something.
Even Michael Curtiz was an immigrant.
He's Hungarian.
Hungarian. He came, when the war started, he came to America, got his start there. So everybody was feeling that vibe. Yeah, you're right, Christy. It was.
The political climate was hot, and to handle, to kind of again to have Americans just be so, Rick is just so staunchly non-committal.
Right. That's an interesting thing.
And Louis is just Louis is kind of if you win, if to the Nazis, if you win, that's great, and they're like, well, what if we don't? He goes, well, you're Nazis, you'll probably he was always just trying to placate just so he can kind of keep what he has, his grift, kind of that. I think Sean, that was his main concern is let me keep my thing going. And I'll just weather these other things are inconveniences to different varying degrees. Does that sound?
Yeah, but I think there's this. I mean, didn't he do some fighting for certain causes that might have been underdog type causes. I mean, that's kind of what I got. That there's a part of him that still has a conscience, I believe, and that maybe he might not wear that on his sleeve where he's where he stands
because it's not safe. Also,
close,
right?
Keeps it all close to the vest.
Yeah. And probably for self-preservation too, because it's not safe to sympathize one way or the other. Roland, what did you have?
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at this film, from eyes in 2022, but during this period,
2022.
Are we there?
Yeah.
But you're looking at that time period. There are fascist wars. About 20 years before that, Italy already was established as a fascist country. So a lot of people did go to other countries and do these battles, all the way from the Greek independence all the way to there. People were just jumping to other countries and starting these wars for freedom and idealism. So these characters really fit well within the worldview of that time. And the interesting thing for me is when you look at, let's say, it's not really a patriotic movie. It has nothing to do with being American. He happens to be American, but it doesn't have anything to do with being American. He actually can't return to America. So seeing a movie that is anti-war, anti-German, yet not really pro-American, and very much on a human level, now a human person, an individual, can have an impact on the greater good of the world, is something you rarely see. I think that's probably what's very compelling about the story and why it's just such a strong script.
Yeah.
It's very human level. It's not world level. It's not Marvel Comics. It's very DC. It deals with a small city. Yeah.
Nick, what do you got?
Rick's background, they, like Sean was saying, they hinted like that, he was running guns or he was doing stuff to help the cause. And then I think the implication is that once his heart was broken, he kind of was like, I don't care anymore. So he was helping both sides. He's like, oh, you want to arrest this guy? Go ahead, do it. Oh, you want to? Yeah, all right, I'll help you. Get the papers you need.
I stick my neck out for nobody.
Yeah. So I think that's the implication. Yes. So,
no. He did Peter Lorre. He did a Peter Lorre.
Peter Lorre a little bit. Yeah.
Right. I didn't. Did I do Peter Lorre? No, I just said Peter Lorre.
You did, but
you did Peter Lorre.
You did.
Yeah.
You've done better though.
Rick, help
you do
me,
Peter
please.
Lorre better when
Rick.
you do Pinky. There you go. When you do his Pinky and the Brain
Ren and
more,
Stimpy.
he's better.
Ren and Stimpy.
Ren and Stimpy.
Eric, what do you got?
I just wanted to piggyback Roland's comments about the worldview, and keep in mind too that this isn't actually 42; it's 41. America was just entering the war at this point, so in my mind, Rick represents America by the end of the movie. But what he does and the sacrifice that he makes, he's going to go off. Now he's a patriot. Now he's going to do what he's going to do. It's almost metaphorically like he is representing America at this point. That America is now entering the war. That we are part of this now. So that was
and also the concept of America, because a lot of the most of the refugees are trying to get to America, right? That's the whole thing. Is Carl sits down and celebrates with it's one of the lighter hearted scenes. He celebrates with an older couple. He's like, oh, we're going to America, and well, we're going to speak English from now on because we're going to America, and the young couple, we want to get to America, so there was some kind of like underlying patriotism of America is where the still the land of dreams, like that's where no one was saying everyone wanted to get out of Europe, and the only place to go was America, right? And there was nothing stable at that point in Europe, so all destinations led west in this case, to America. So there is, it wasn't bang you over the head patriotism of rah, rah, rah USA, but it's there that, hey, America is where we want to go because that's the safest place right now. So it's kind of interesting from that. Yeah, it wasn't the rah, 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 let's go, but a little more kind of toned down, I think a little bit more. So.
Do you think that they were somewhat ambiguous about it because of the time period of not knowing what was going to happen with the war, not knowing what was going to happen with Nazis, and kind of playing it somewhat safe to not ruffle feathers unnecessarily? Or
well, we all knew Nazis were bad. I mean, that was just from the get-go. Right? Even back then in 41, it was like the Nazis are bad. They were, they were. No, they're not.
That's some Long Island Nazis. Let's be honest. You got some Long Island Nazis.
Well, politically
Did you say Long Island Nazis?
Yeah, they had a bunch. Yeah, some Long Island Nazis.
Roland, it's 2022. You still have Long Island Nazis.
You do. Actually, the biggest network of Nazis were arrested in Queens.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah.
But
Glendale.
Well, there's that scene. It's probably one of my favorite lines in the film, and one of my favorite scenes is when Strasser is like, meeting Rick for the first time, and he's like, "We got a complete dossier on you," and he's giving him all this.
My eyes really brown.
And he goes, and then that other guy's, "Can you imagine us in London?" And he's like, "When you get there, ask me." Like Rick is very like.
But isn't that's what's so great about this movie?
But there's that one line where he says to Strasser, he goes, "How about New York?" And he's like, "Well, there's several sections of New York where I wouldn't advise you to try to." There you go.
How about your beloved Paris? That's not my beloved Paris. He's so.
Better than that, though, there's an actual movie based on that line. I think there's All Through the Night with Bogey.
Yeah,
where he uncovers a Nazi spy ring. They're trying to blow up a battleship in New York Harbor, and it's sort of a comedy, noirish kind of comedy, but he's like a gangster in it. So you got these gangsters fighting Nazis, which is awesome. It kind of sounds like the most underrated roles. It's a great film. Great film.
Sounds like The Rocketeer.
Yeah. Yeah.
It has nothing to do with what Eric is saying, but when he's like, when Louis is like, "Why'd you come to Casablanca?" He goes, "I came from the waters." He goes, "This is the desert." He goes, "What waters?" He goes, "I was misinformed."
Such every line.
I mean, it's such dry humor, but it's so great.
Yeah, that's a great delivery.
Dry humor came to the desert. Dry humor. Get it?
Get it?
I get it.
Very good, Dean. Very good.
Kelly, who's some of your favorite characters in this film? What drew you to this film besides the love? The love story is kind of universal.
Yeah. So when I was younger, because I never really watched this movie all the way through until I met Eric, and I was so confused. Like yeah, no. When I was watching it, I was like, this is so much different and so much better than the pop culture shows you. You know what I mean? Because you just think, oh, it's this love story and blah, 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 but you don't realize how much drama there is and how much. But to be honest, Sam is my favorite character. I love what he brings to that. And like you said, everyone quotes, "Play it again, Sam," but you don't realize how much torment is in that song. And, he's in this really precarious position because he has to kind of just like keep things light and, but yet, and in this case, he has these two people that he has known and knows the whole story. So I think
he's kind of like Rick's protector. Also, he's trying to shield, initially trying to shield Ilsa from him, right? Oh, Rick. Oh, he's not here. Oh, he's gone. Oh, he's up at the Blue Parrot with. Oh,
you used to be such a better liar, Sam.
So, and then that leads to that scene afterwards where he's, you get the famous line of all the gin joints and all the, she walked into mine and what time, everybody in America is sleeping, and he's like, "Let's get out of here. Let's go. We'll drive. We'll go fishing." So he is kind of a. I don't know if he's a. I don't know. Maybe he is a confidant of his, but he also feels like he's a protector because he knows maybe how hurt Rick. Sean, does that sound about right? Like he kind of knows how hurt Rick was over this because he was with him at the train station when he got the letter, right? And so Sam was really the only one that really knows the dynamic of what was going on, and I think he kind of plays that protector role.
I agree. Yes, I agree. I like the dynamic between them two, especially when Ferrari wants to hire him, and he walks right up to Sam and says, "He'll pay you double what I can." He said, "Yeah, but I don't have time to spend the money that you pay me."
I love that line.
I love it. I love their dynamic. I think they're protectors of each other. I think as well. I think Rick definitely looks out for Sam, and Sam definitely looks out for Rick. I think it's because it's mutual.
Yeah, because also Sean, when he sells his place to Ferrari, he goes in. Everybody stays or it's off, and Sam gets 25%. Because I know he gets 10, but he's worth it.
Yep.
He's a value, and Ferrari was trying to get him from the beginning, so he was Sam was like a hot commodity. Yeah. For what he brought, it was kind of like, and it was a great line in there. Like, "I don't buy and sell people. Go ahead and ask him yourself."
Yeah, to Roland's point,
I'll take my hands out. Like,
to to Roland's point, it was very respectfully done, and you know, they weren't afraid to acknowledge it either. You know, like, I don't buy and sell human beings, and then, but what are we doing? Refugees, it's the same thing. And so
you're basically doing
Sam,
that.
it's, you know, right, exactly. So the whole situation is so human and so you know, for a movie of its time, it wasn't afraid to show those faculties, and it was done in such a clever way that it was in the writing, that it was just everything is represented. I feel
represented the right way. Nick, what do you got?
Dooley Wilson in the role of Sam is, I mean, so great. And they were supposed to dub over his vocals for that, you know, iconic song. And luckily they didn't, because him singing, you know, as time goes by, I can't imagine anybody else's voice with that song, you know, and it's been done so many other times before, but that's the, you know, really an iconic thing.
I prefer. Oh, my head is curling. You know,
I like knock. Since we're going with Dooley Wilson, I like knock on wood.
Knock on wood. Yeah,
I like knock on wood. Is you know, because everybody's singing, everybody in the bar is singing. It's kind of like that song where everyone's like, you know, who's got trouble? We got trouble. It's trouble.
It's interaction. It's like
I could totally be in there with that
going on. Yeah, it's fantastic.
And he's definitely the one who kind of progresses the story, because he kind of like, it's almost like a handoff, depending on what he's playing and things like that. It like transitions the scenes, which is
a lot with those
he hightails it out of there. Like when Rick comes, so I thought I told you never to play this again, and then he sees Ilsa, and he grabs that bench and pushes that.
He pushes the piano out of the way.
He's like, it's on like Donkey Kong, and I'm not staying because, you know, like, you know, he gets the hell out of there. He's like, all right, I've done all the blocking and blocking I can for him. Oh my God, this screenplay is just electric. It crackles with intrigue, comedy, melodrama, drama, romance,
I think the directing,
political intrigue.
Really,
you know,
if you look at the directing, you know, the directing part of it, of how he painted the scenes and the little nuances and the characters, and it probably his perspective of being a refugee and coming from a different theatrical background, not a very American theater or film background. I think that's a little bit why it's allowed to be so gritty too. You know, in that sense, very human. That he's showing it from a different, more likely a very German, you know, production POV. Which was the dominant. You have Brecht and all that stuff. And this is where this Threepenny Opera. This is where that plays into that darkness, that you want to show things a little bit peeled back. And the only peripheral characters to me are Rick's. That's his conscience. That's the people who keep him sort of on his rails. You know, like one guy's telling me, calm down, have a little drink, don't have a drink. I wouldn't do that with a girl. You're a good man for not doing that for a girl. So, you know, and they're sort of helping him guide his wheels a little bit. And he does show that respect by making sure that Sasha, all these people are still employed.
Yeah.
So he gives it to them essentially. Like they got to have their jobs.
And that's when Carl, you know, like his, oh my, you know, I love you, boss. Like they, you know, that heart of stone or heart of ice starts to melt.
Get away, you crazy Russian.
We see it slow, like we see it slowly melt. Where, you know, he brushes off the young woman, right? He's like, well, you know, too bad. Hopefully you get to America, not my problem. Yeah. You know, but then goes and helps. And she see in that great roulette scene again, she knows, like the husband is oblivious. Like, leave it there. Yeah. You know, like. Yeah. You know, like he has no clue what is all the machinations that are going on, that she was going to sleep with Claude Rains, that she spoke with Rick. Like, this guy has no idea about that. And then she's got no idea that Rick can fix the roulette game, you know, and that he does that for her. And he does, he's like, he does it, but doesn't want the hugging, you know, like with Sasha, when he hugs, he's like, get off me. Like, he doesn't want that. He just kind of wants to do these things and almost for his own conscience, but not conscience, not for, you know.
When she hugs him, he's just a lucky guy, even to her. Like, he's not going to acknowledge that he did something nice, you know, something.
Because he can't let his reputation get like he's got a reputation, you know.
That's right. Yeah.
You know, it's like, you know, you're right, Ugarte. I am a little more impressed with you, you know. Poor devils.
And I love the fact that this young couple, they're in it from the very beginning. They just show up.
They were like the first shot. They were one of the first shots.
Several scenes that they just keep popping up, and you know there's something happening there until it finally, that scene just changes the nature of.
Yeah, and the guy with the ring, like there's all these like the guy selling the ring, the pickpocket kind of is working he's at the cafe, then he's in the bar, and there's just all these just kind of characters that are just kind of doing their little scams in Casablanca, like trying to take advantage of these refugees as they're coming through, just trying to they're coming in to get out.
You
is
can
what
see
they're
the
doing, right? It's like the waypoint.
You can definitely see that influence in everything from Star Wars to Indiana
Jones.
The
cantina.
Steven Spielberg, he goes on to say that Michael Curtiz, I think, is his biggest influence as a director. He considers himself to be the style, like he's just an everyman type of director. He doesn't have a particular style per se, but he just knows how to shoot humanity in a way that, and I totally see that in Spielberg's work.
Yeah, and Curtiz said as much. He goes, I don't go for like the money shot. I don't go for the shot that you're going to remember. Right. He goes, I'm looking to stitch these scenes together into something that's memorable.
Tell a story.
Yeah, I'm not looking to get the one shot like in North by Northwest with the plane and Cary Grant's falling and it goes over. Like he's not looking for that. He's looking for to make the whole picture. He's a worker. I mean, Michael Curtiz, like I said, directed Angels with Dirty Faces, one of my favorite Cagney films. But you got to give the guy credit. For him, it was just another production. I mean, back then these things were cranked out. It really wasn't anything special. It was just
Casablanca was one of 50 films made that year by Warner Brothers. And it was
they used to bang these pop boilers out, right? They used to just knock these things out and crank out and go on to the next one. And Bogart, would make 3 or 4 films. Curtiz would direct 5 or 6 in a year. So this was just another one. But Sean, what do you think it is about this one? Why is this one? Why 80 years later is it like it was one of the was it like AFI or the National Film Registry? It was one of the first films they picked for preservation. But it's just it's like one of, like Eric said, one of like 50 films that a studio made. You're lucky if a studio makes 3 films in a year nowadays.
Well, I mean, I think it's a great cast. I think the characters, like they paint a beautiful picture, and I think that's a great point that those characters represent the conscious, of Rick, who's the main character. Mm-hmm. Like Nick said, I think it's beautifully shot. Like, I'm thinking about everything you're saying. Like, yes, all those scenes are lit perfectly for the tone of each scene, and the lighting is a character. The cafe is a character, and the music, everything is so beautifully weaved together to tell this story. And it moves. Like I was watching it before I got on this, and I was like, oh, I got to stop watching. I got to get upstairs, and I can't wait to go back downstairs and finish it because of our conversation. And I wanted to watch it again just because I enjoyed it, and I'm watching it, and I can't wait to go back downstairs and watch it again. And it's one that I wish I had paid more attention to, like growing up, in the background. Mm-hmm. It's been about the lines, the famous lines. Yeah. It's so much more than that,
Yeah, that's to Kelly's point, Christy, right? Is Kelly made the point about the play it again, Sam, and here's looking at you, kid, right? And but it's much more than that.
Yeah, I think this film has 5 lines in it that are considered like the best lines in movie history. And they play it again, Sam, he never actually says it, which everyone knows. It's like you played it for her, you could play it for me. But
if she could stand it, I could stand it.
Play it.
Play it, man. Play it.
But one of the things that I found actually heartbreaking when I was doing a little extra research for the film is how much none of them liked it when they were filming it.
Yeah.
Bogart.
Yeah, very true. Yeah.
Bogart actually said to someone, "I'm in the worst film. The dialogue is ridiculous." Ingrid Bergman didn't want to do it, but she wanted to go on to do it for Whom the Bell Tolls, which she was still able to do, but she didn't want to do it. Nobody got along with freaking what was his name, Henry Laszlo?
Paul Henry, yeah.
Yeah, he thought that Bogart was like a mediocre actor. Ingrid Bergman thought that Laszlo Henry was a prima donna. Like there was so much turmoil, and I'm reading this and I'm like, were you not like, how could you not have been in love? Like, it's heartbreaking that they weren't in love with.
They didn't see it for what it was.
Yeah. And then Bogart's wife at the time, he wasn't married to Bacall yet, thought he was having an affair with Ingrid Bergman. So she was constantly on set, like, causing problems. He'd be angry all the time. Like, I was like, what's going on? Like
I think that's the point, though, right, Nick? It was just another film. Like, this was one of many films that they were knocking out. So it's not like it wasn't until afterwards.
Yeah, and I think
when it started winning awards, but then even longer.
And it became so part of pop culture. I forgot which one of you said that. Like, the lines became repeated and bastardized, right? Played again. Sam was never in the movie, but the ending is kind of corny if you think about it. So they mocked it. They spoofed it. The singing. So. But if you see it as a whole, like, at the time, I think it struck a nerve, right, because of the time frame that it was in. And then over the years, I think people just see the perfection of it, like the casting, and it doesn't matter if the actors liked it while they did it. They gave some hell of a performances, right, together. And the timing was great, and it just works. It just works.
Imagine if they actually liked filming it and what we would have had.
Yeah, and Kelly, Nick said the ending was kind of corny, but Kelly, I think the ending was kind of like before we had The Sixth Sense. This was like a twist ending.
It was a perfect ending,
right? Because they were totally leading you in a certain direction. Even the characters believed it, and then all of a sudden, he has a change of heart. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say that it's almost like I was saying before I had seen the whole movie, and you think that is almost like we'll see you soon type of a conversation, not this is the end of the line forever kind of a situation, so that's where I think when you go back and see it for what it is, that it really hits you, all of these things that has been spit out in culture. And that Play It Again, Sam, she actually says, play it for me again, or something like to that effect. And it's like, to have that, like, as soon as she sees him, she's transported back to Paris. You know what I mean? She's like, oh, I have this, past life that, for a moment I can, have a little bit of relief from what's going on.
Yeah, and the look on his face when he sees her the first time, it's like horror. There's a little very small smile, and then there's like panic. I mean, and Bogart may not be one of the greatest actors ever, but in this movie, he really. What's that?
What did you say, Nick?
No, Sean.
We got a bunch of gasps for that.
I guess.
I agree with that statement. I do. I think that I like him in this, but there's times where I feel like it's just him.
He's good for this. He's very good. Maybe because they were a little detached. They didn't ever overthink of who they are as a star. And he was able just to act. Somebody who's got to act.
It was later in his career where he kind of broke the mold a little bit, maybe with Caine Mutiny and African Queen. But up until then, it's like he was like a one-note kind of actor. Like, you knew what you were getting.
He was always the heavy.
So much, right? Yeah. Everybody was doing the impressions of him because, it was kind of easy to do, right?
Yeah, I mean, he was always the heavy, and even in Maltese Falcon, that was like his first breakthrough role. And this was still, this was only 42. I mean, so he still had a ton of stuff ahead of him. Yeah. So he was probably still somewhat of an unknown quantity. Again, these guys are contract players for Warner Brothers, so they just they get assigned the movie. It's not like nowadays where they're picking and developing, and it's like here's what you're doing, here's the script. So I could see where I'm not getting along with Nick, but Nick was Nick is under contract too. It's not like I can choose this and we do that. It's kind of like here's the roles you're getting. For it kept a lot of actors working, but then other actresses like Bette Davis and some of the other ones really rebelled against it and said, well, I'm not getting to choose what I want to do. But this seemed like lightning in a bottle. It seemed like everything, all the tumblers just kind of came together for a movie. Like I watched this. I look forward to watching this film. I really get immersed into it. I really got like, I go all in with the characters, with the atmosphere. I really kind of just sit back, like as if I'm in the bar watching what's going on, not participating, but kind of there when all these, sitting when Rick is signing the checks and writing it in that black pencil type thing, and I just, Curtiz really did create something special in what was one of 50 films. So I think that's, if you've never seen, if anybody listening to this has never seen Casablanca, or like Kelly said, you look at the box art or the DVD art, and it's Bergman and Bogart like embracing that climactic scene. That does not even begin to encompass what this film is.
No,
right? Christy, do you?
Yeah,
what do you got?
I hope this was untrue, and if it was, thank God the studio.
Are you just giving us more bad trivia?
I am, because when you're talking about it and talking about it, because I'm very aware of the
talking about it. Talking from Boston, you're gonna have some wicked trivia. You're gonna knock some wicked trivia for us.
Have some coffee.
Madonna, who I love.
We're gonna take this with a grain of salt.
Wanted to play Ilsa and have Ashton Kutcher. Yes, Ashton Kutcher, who I also enjoy, play Rick.
When was this?
In a remake?
Yeah,
in a remake, which by the way, I enjoy both of them, but I don't. She says she could be his mother based on age, and there should be a list of films that you can never remake, and this film has to be on that list. Same with Citizen Kane, On the Waterfront. Like there are certain movies.
They actually did. They made it was a TV movie.
Yeah, with David Soul. They made Casablanca TV show, and Scatman Crothers as Sam. Nick. What do you got?
You mentioned people who've never seen it should watch it. Have any of you seen it on the big screen? Because
yes.
I'm going to be in the Massachusetts, so I can't go.
Yeah, it's playing at Alamo. I don't know when this episode airs, but if anywhere where you live, if it's
It'll be
playing
after
in a
that.
theater, you should go to see it on a big screen with an audience, because
100%.
That's how it was originally created, and that's how most people were discovering it on TV. And I think seeing it in the big screen. Really make a difference. So,
and at
Absolutely.
the Alamo, you can drink while you watch
Absolutely.
it. And feel like you're at
half
Rick's.
drink.
And they probably have.
Oh, I drink when I watch it every single time.
And they
probably
have themed. They probably have themed cocktails too, knowing the Alamo.
And as he pronounces the bourbon.
And you can bring candy cigarettes with you and puff on a candy cigarette.
There you go.
Dean, we should bring out Turkish coffee because they drink.
I'm ready. Yeah, Ferrari. I noticed that Ferrari was drinking
Turkish coffee.
Roland, I thought of you. I noticed Ferrari was drinking the Turkish coffee. I was like, there we go. I'm in Prince Coffee Shop, East Tremont. Arthur Avenue.
Does Carl remind anyone of what was his name? Souza in Carlito's Way, the club owner. You don't think that they're exactly alike?
You mean Sasso?
Sasso. Tell me they're not exactly alike.
Carlito. Sasso.
But now look at Carl with Rick. I mean, it's the same thing.
Could be a little bit. Just a little bit.
Carl did immigrate to Queens and then fell into the Bronx.
There you go.
We know what happened.
Right, as we do, let's wind it down. We've got a bunch of people to go through, but let me start with Kelly. We like to do favorite scenes.
Oh no.
Okay. What do you got? What stands out for you? What's one? I mean, there could be a lot. Like I've said in other episodes, the whole movie could be a favorite scene.
Yeah.
But what do you have? What's one that really, like, for you, it's kind of like, I can't wait for this one.
Well, the funniest part to me, and Eric's going to have to help me out on names because I never know who is what, but that scene where he says gambling is illegal, and he goes, "Here's a winning, sir," and he says, "Thank you." Yeah. I love that.
There's gambling going on.
And he's like, "Here's a winning, sir." Oh, thank you. I love that because it just seems so. It's not that it's out of place. It's like timeless. Like that could be any kind of like casino type of thing, and then I don't know. That's my favorite.
Louis is just so corrupt that he doesn't care. Right? Yeah. It's like Strauss is like, shut this place down. He's like, why? Find a reason.
Claude
shocked. Fucking gambling is going on in the system. Here's your winnings, sir. Oh, thank you. He just sticks it in the back pocket. We're still shutting it down. Yeah, he is corrupt and he knows it, and he's got no scruples about it. He'll make bets on whether Laszlo is going to get out and escape. And he's like the chief of police, and he's making these bets. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's just.
And by the way, he's a terrible smoker.
He's not a good. I don't think he was a real smoker in real life.
He's not inhaling at all.
He's no Bogart.
Okay, he doesn't need to.
He's no Bogart.
The way he sits in his uniform and the way he stands in his uniform, and he's got that wave in his hair. Claude Rains is the man. Sean, what do you got?
Yeah, go ahead.
Favorite scene? It's tough. I like the scene when Ilsa has just come and Rick it's at night. He's got the bottle, and him and Sam. Sam's like, let's get out of here. Let's go fishing, and I like that dynamic between the two of them. You really get a sense of what their relationship is, and I like Sam is one of my favorite characters. I agree with Kelly. So
he's like one in and one out. That's the way, like Ugardi leaves and Elsa comes in. It's kind of that's the way my luck is. Christy, what do you got?
Actually, well, Kelly and Sean both each stole a scene. I enjoyed both of those scenes very much.
Stole it, or they actually like those scenes.
They liked them first, so they stole them.
You probably liked it before me. I just spoke before you.
Wait, hang on, Christy. Before you go, Sean, do you have any of the Casablanca action figures?
No, I don't have that, but I have.
Do you have the Rick with the trench coat figure that came out?
No?
He's getting
was this guy in Casablanca? No, that's Arnold Tote. No, wrong.
No, he's a Nazi. He counts.
Inspired by, right? Some of this got to be inspired by Casablanca, right?
He absolutely he counts. He's a Nazi. He's a bad man.
Okay.
Christy is coming back eventually. She's got. What does she have? What do you have?
I have this.
Oh.
What is that?
Is that a Bogart?
What is that?
So
is that like a Pez dispenser?
No. If you have a note, it's on your desk, and it's Bogart.
Okay, but that's Bogart?
That's Bogart.
Really?
Oh my God.
No, I'm showing you Sam Kinison because that makes sense.
Can you hold it up to the camera? It looks like Paul Lynde.
Yeah, that's
looks like the center square on Hollywood Squares.
Yeah, that's a drunk Paul Lynde. A drunk Paul Lynde. Paul Lynde as Bogart. Yes.
There it is.
What is that?
What
is that's the most horrific thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah. The hat too small.
I don't know.
I got the shit kicked out of him.
No. Excellent. I mean, you're selling it, but I don't know if I'd buy it.
Roland, I bought it. I paid for it.
I know you did. And we've all had moments. We've all had moments in our life.
Christy, let me ask you a question. Why would I want Humphrey Bogart to hold a piece of paper in his mouth?
Because then he says, here's looking at you, kid.
If it was an ashtray, if it was a cigarette holder, if it was a lighter, if it was a decanter, all of those would be apropos.
It's big enough to
put anything in Bogart's mouth makes sense to me.
There you go.
It's just awful. I feel like he's dentist now. I feel like Bogart's dentist. For those not watching, for those on YouTube, you have to come look at the video because this is just horrific.
Wait, I'm going to tie it to my face. My face
looks
is
like
in the hole.
Molly's ghost or something.
It's like a finger costume. Is that like a finger costume?
You paid money for that?
I did.
It is spooky.
Yeah.
Did you make that in arts and crafts in like 5th grade?
No, boy.
No, I paid good American dollars for this.
American dollars.
Do you have that notwithstanding? Do you have a favorite scene? Because that's horrific. That's gonna hurt my dreams.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Well, besides the thievery from Kelly and Sean, I like when Bogart sees her for the first time, and again because of what we discussed. Whether he's a mediocre actor or not, he goes through every range of emotion and he does it very, very well. Mm-hmm. The scene why I like the one that Sean mentioned is because I don't know if he was an underrated actor at the time, but his acting, he's so subtle, Sam, in and the way he brings emotion to it. Like he just doesn't overact. Like he's even when Rick comes in and he tells him to play for him, and he's just like, oh, Jesus Christ, like, I just, why are you getting stuck in the middle of this? Like I just want to play. I just want to get paid and work. It's just,
Yep.
and honestly, any scene with Louis and Rick,
Yeah.
it's absolutely magical. Like I look forward to every scene they are in together, and I know that that's a cheap way out, but it is moving.
It is.
It's just,
Claude Rains is just magic. He should have won for best supporting actor.
Claude Rains is just amazing in this film. Absolutely amazing.
He had such an easy, breezy, light touch to his character. There you go.
Christy.
If that was an impression,
no,
wow. Nick, what do you got?
I have no problem to follow that. But there's a reason Kelly, Sean, and Christy mentioned that scene, because it does show Bogart's range. The scene right before that, he's, his tough character throughout the movie. Then he's drunk. Then it goes into that flashback where you see how happy and in love he is. But since that scene has been taken, I picked the very last shot of the movie because it comes right after the, the corny but heartbreaking scene, that everybody thinks is so famous. And
you're a thief, Nick Leshy. You're a thief.
I'm still. I took yours, Roland. I'm sorry. But the audience is heartbroken. They wanted that couple to be together. The plane takes off, and then you got that perfect line where it's like, this is the start of a beautiful friendship, and the audience is like, what's going to come next? I think it's the perfect way to end the movie, and I just love that scene. Sorry, Roland. Sorry.
Son of a bitch.
Roland, what do you got?
Son of a bitch, Nick Leshy. You son of a bitch.
Roland, do you want to borrow Humphrey Bogart?
No. It hurts too much. The sting is still there. The sting is still there. It's like swimming in salt water. Thank you, Nick Leshy. I have two scenes. I will say the end.
The way. Oh my God.
They're sort of related. I love the Laszlo and Sam scene where Sam tells him. Not Sam, sorry, Rick. Where he tells Rick, where Rick tells him, ask your wife.
Yep.
I think that's the pivot point for the movie for me. Where that's
I said, ask your wife.
Yeah, go ask your wife. That is like
that's
raw.
Your
Bogart saying, "Go ask your wife. Go ask your wife," and that is the pivot point for me of where there's the final dialogue of where, okay, now this is who he is, and he's peeling away himself a little bit, and he's showing a little bit of who he is. And then at the end, I think that's showing who that character is, and that's why I don't find it corny. I think it's a very sweet moment of somebody showing who they really are.
Yeah, I agree.
This is all part of my plan. This is who I am. God bless you. Loved it. You too, my friend. Best of luck with her. I got to do other things. I got to find myself again. And he just reinvents himself again. And that's part, it's the next thing. He's reinventing himself again. He's constantly reinventing himself. Cool. And he makes himself a different persona. Is it a gun runner? Is he fighting fascists in Spain against Franco? Is he friggin', opening up a restaurant successfully, or a cafe that's, blowing everybody out of the water? Instead of an Adobe, essentially, the Blue Parrot's like a mud hut. But and this place has got glass and marble. It's like, what the hell?
It actually sounds a lot like my life, fighting the fascists and then having a bar. I've felt like I've had a lot of the similar experiences.
No, I see it in you. You wear it well.
I'm surprised the studio system.
What the hell?
He keeps it very low.
I'm surprised the studio system didn't turn this into a buddy movie series. Of them.
Yeah, wait for Bob to jump in.
Crosby. Yeah. The road to Berlin.
The road to Berlin. Yeah.
What do you got?
That didn't play so well. For most of that war, that didn't play so well.
What's it going to be, Eric?
Oh, for me?
You.
Aside from the scene where he helps the couple, I love that. I love that scene. That's, and of course all the accolades that everybody, all his staff gives him. I love that. But I think to add to Roland's favorite scene, I also like the scene, the little exchange between Rick and Laszlo when they come back from the meeting, and it was like after Ilsa tells Rick her whole story and what happened, and then Carl and Laszlo, and he's wounded and he's wrapping the towel around his hand, and he's like, there's that little exchange about, why don't you care? Like, I wonder if, he's like, you might as well stop breathing if, because, he said, don't you think this, you ever stop to think that this is all worth it? Why are you doing all this? And he's just like, why are we alive? And, freedom is everything, so I love that scene, that little exchange. And past that point, you don't know what Rick's, you're kind of uncertain where Rick is going at this point. Does he care? Does he not care? Yeah. So they keep it ambiguous until the very end. And then it's such a great second half, or that third act of the film, would just, and as from what I understand, they didn't have an ending. They didn't know how to end this thing.
Yeah. They shot it sequentially because they were still writing it.
Right. And it was like they were making it up as it went along. And it's just brilliant. It's brilliant that there was such a change and such a, so that's probably my favorite.
Yeah. I mean, you know what? Paul Henreid probably has the least amount to do with his character because he doesn't really change. He really had a thankless job, but he really was the anchor of the unchanging good. No matter what was thrown at him, he understood. Oh, my wife fooled around. I understand. You thought I was dead. I understand. Like he really is. I don't know if he's a patsy for that or he's like the greatest guy in the world. I'm not sure. But my favorite scene, there's a couple, pretty much any side character. Okay. So the night after Sean's favorite scene with Bogart, when he's, was drinking and he meets Elsa at the market and she's looking at the lace and he's like, oh, 700. Oh, friend of Rick, 400. Oh, extra special price for Rick, 200. Like it keeps marking it down. Like I love those side, like they're having a conversation about something really serious that happened the night before. And Elsa is totally blowing them off. Like, you know what? I don't care what your story is. And this guy's still trying to sell them, sell her fabric. And she's like, I'm not really interested. Like normally in movies today, those people would be in a coffee shop sitting next to each other and it would be an intimate scene and you would just hear them talking. And instead, this guy's like interrupting, like That's still right, trying to peddle his wares, like he doesn't care. He doesn't care. He don't know what happened last night. He's just doing his thing, so I love those scenes of those characters that they have no clue. They're just doing their grift. They're just trying to do what they do, not knowing all this other intrigue. And but my favorite thing, it's not even a scene, it's just a couple of shots, is at the very end, right? So Strauss, Louis, Rick says, hey, call the airport, tell him we're coming. And Louis calls Strasser, right? And Strasser's like, what is this? Like, man, and he get me to the airport. And then Strasser goes to the airport and he's going to, put that phone down, and Rick kills Strasser. And there's a moment where they cut back and forth where all the police guys come and Louis stops. He looks at Rick. There's a cut to Rick. And then Louis says, round up the usual suspects, right? There's that moment of tension because Rick he didn't tell Louis what was going on. He kind of betrayed him throughout this, but there was that moment where Louis decided also to take a stand, because then he opens up the Vichy water, he's going to pour it, and then he looks at it and he throws it in the garbage, right? He's I'm done with all this too. It's time for all of us to kind of take a stand, So that was a nice resolution. He's still Louis. He's still probably smarmy and he's still subject to corruption, but they make a great pairing. And I think that was my favorite scene. So for episode 100, we have advocated to the heavens for watching Casablanca. And I can't thank Kelly enough. I can't thank Roland enough. Sean, Christy, Nick, and of course, where would Eric is the co-host. So it's not even like I have to thank Eric. He's every week. It's our show. We do it together. It's been a great run. It's been great fun. See, I did a little rhyming there. Great run, great fun.
Wow.
Thank you guys for joining us for this episode. There are a lot more to come. See, Christy, we can manage a bunch of guests. It is doable. It's doable.
Yeah, this was great.
We can do it
like a charm.
Like a charm.
No technical difficulties
we
whatsoever.
even had a seventh guest, the finger puppet thing.
Yeah.
That's right.
Special people. Oh my God.
Hi. Eric.
He looks like
Eric.
That thing is horrible. It's like one of those.
He looks like a Ray Harryhausen statue come to life, like one of the Titans.
I should have done
one of those
It's like
British
the villain
puppets.
for Roger Rabbit.
I should have done this entire podcast like this and just kept moving it when I spoke.
What do you have, Nick? What's the
I
last word on your
I have
puppet?
one question about the puppet.
Okay.
Christy, when
It's
you
not a puppet.
whatever it is, did you know that was Humphrey Bogart? Or I mean,
Yes, that's why I bought it.
Really? It said that on the
Obviously-
packaging. It said Humphrey
obviously-
Bogart on the packaging.
I can see true art, and you
Well,
cannot.
here's the thing: when we do Yankee Doodle Dandy, she's going to pull that out and say it's James Cagney.
I'm a Yankee Doodle Dandy.
I don't think Bogart ever moves his lips as much as that
not like
in real
that.
life.
Yeah.
So-
You know what? If I planned ahead and remembered I had this, I would have bought a pack of cigarettes.
He never had a clothespin for a mouth. So anyway, that's going to do it for this episode. Again, in order of original appearance, Sean, thank you so much, Sean. I really appreciate all,
Thank you, sir.
It says Bogart right there.
It does. Gonna Bogart a cigarette. Thank you, Sean, for all your episodes that you've been on, and we look forward to many more. We love having you, and we love
being here.
Sean's the original purveyor of the action figure. So, second in order, Nick Leshy. Thank you so much, Nick.
Thank you.
It's been great. I love Nick having on because he's an easy mark. I can make him laugh very easily, so he makes me feel good because I watch him break up and it's like, okay, that's good. Kelly, looking forward to a lot more from Kelly in the next 100 episodes. We're going to be getting a lot more films on. So Kelly Cooper, thank you so much for everything as well, for all your support. Big props. Christy Cuomo, right now the crown, heavy lies the crown on her head for the most downloaded episode. But thank you very much for the props and the puppets and the creepiness. All of it is just strange. But thank you for it. And of course, Roland. Where would we be without the Turkish coffee? Thank you, Roland, so much for joining us on this episode. And again, we look forward to having you on a lot more as well.
Thank you.
And of course, Eric, congratulations, Eric, on 100 episodes.
Yep. Same to you, sir.
We did it.
Yep. Big round of applause.
Yeah.
There we go.
That's what we're talking about.
And the
Congratulations to you guys.
And as we close, the biggest thank you is to everybody that's even if you've only listened to a minute or two, we appreciate it. That's a minute that you stayed. And if it wasn't your cup of tea, that's fine as well. It's quite all right. But for the ones that like it and hang around, we appreciate it. It really is a joy to, and I hope that comes out in our episodes, that we really love talking about music and movies, and we really have fun, and we want like-minded guests. And that's why we have these people on all the time. Is because they love talking about it too, and it's infectious, and it's something fun, and hopefully it's a little diversion from everything that's going on in this crazy world, that you could take an hour or so to yourself and let us whisper in your ear or on your smart speaker or in your car when you've got some windshield time, whatever it is.
Just got weird, Dean.
This is creepy. This is creepy.
Stephen King. That got very Stephen King right now.
I'm getting all sentimental. That's why.
A little
So-
bit, maybe.
But this is creepy, right, Dean?
Is there?
What's that?
That's important. Yeah.
This is the creepy thing?
That is the creepy thing. But
Whisper
the
in my
the
ear.
important thing is that we really thank everybody for their support and appreciate it. We're going to keep bringing you a lot of great content. That's going to wrap it up for episode 100, Casablanca. So thank you, Sean, Nick, Kelly, Christy, and Roland. And for Eric, as we always say, this has been Dean asking you to please be kind and rewind.
You've been listening to the 3324 podcast with Dean Legiro and Eric Cooper. You can find us on your favorite podcast provider, so please like, subscribe, and rate to become a part of the 3324 family. Your feedback is important, so make sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at 3324 podcast and on Twitter at 3324p to join the conversation.